The weight of my mistakes haunts me like a persistent shadow, casting darkness over memories I wish I could erase. I remember the night everything changed, the night I betrayed the one person who believed in me completely. The courtyard was cold, the air thick with tension, and the flickering torchlight seemed to expose every hidden weakness in my soul. I had promised Jesus everything: loyalty, courage, unwavering commitment. Yet when the moment of truth arrived, my resolve crumbled faster than dried clay. 3 times I denied knowing him, each denial cutting deeper than the last. The rooster's crow wasn't just a sound. It was a thunderous revelation of my own brokenness. Shame became my constant companion. Each replay of that moment in my mind was like a knife twisting, reopening wounds that seemed impossible to heal. I wasn't just afraid of others' judgment. I was terrified of looking at myself. How could someone who claimed to love Jesus so completely fail so spectacularly? The silence after his crucifixion was deafening. Guilt consumed me, a relentless predator that stalked my every thought. I had walked beside him, witnessed his miracles, heard his teachings, and yet, when it mattered most, I abandoned him. The distance between my proclaimed devotion and my actual actions felt infinite. But something remarkable was about to happen. Something that would transform my deepest failure into an extraordinary testimony of grace. My story wasn't ending in shame. It was just beginning to reveal the true depth of divine restoration. I didn't know it then, but my moments of greatest weakness would become the very platform for understanding an incomprehensible love. The love that doesn't calculate our mistakes, but sees beyond them. The love that doesn't just forgive, but completely rebuilds. My heart was a battlefield of emotions: regret, fear, hope wrestling together in a complex dance of redemption. I had no idea that my greatest moment of failure would become a powerful narrative of hope for countless others who would struggle with their own moments of weakness. The journey of restoration was about to begin, and it would start with something as simple and profound as a shared meal and 3 life-changing questions that would redefine everything I thought I knew about love, forgiveness, and purpose. My name is Peter, and this is the story of how grace found me in my most broken moment. The weight of betrayal pressed against my chest like an immovable stone. Every memory of that night felt branded into my consciousness, searing, unrelenting, a constant reminder of my profound weakness. I understood now that human frailty isn't just about momentary failure. It's about the internal landscape of shame that follows. My journey wasn't simply about recovering from a single mistake. It represented a deeper wrestling match between human vulnerability and divine mercy. Each denial I uttered created invisible fractures in my spirit, hairline cracks that threatened to shatter my entire understanding of faith and commitment. Solitude became my unwelcome companion. I wandered through Jerusalem's narrow streets, feeling simultaneously invisible and exposed. Fishermen recognized me, but their glances carried unspoken judgment. My reputation as one of Jesus' closest disciples now felt like a cruel mockery. Introspection revealed uncomfortable truths. Courage isn't a permanent state, but a continuous choice. My previous confidence had been superficial, a thin veneer masking deep-seated insecurities. When genuine testing arrived, that fragile exterior crumbled instantly. Grief transformed my inner world. I wasn't mourning just a relationship lost, but my entire perception of personal integrity. Each recollection of Jesus' compassionate gaze now felt like an indictment, a silent reminder of my spectacular failure. Psychological torment consumed me. Sleep became impossible. Fragmented memories replayed endlessly, each repetition more excruciating than the previous. My mind constructed elaborate scenarios of alternative responses, tormenting myself with what could have been. Spiritual desolation felt absolute. The connection I'd experienced with Jesus seemed irreparably severed. My understanding of grace now existed in a painful liminal space, suspended between desperate hope and crushing despair. Redemption, I was learning, wasn't a straightforward path. It wound through darkness, uncertainty, and profound self-examination. My previous certainties had been stripped away, leaving behind something raw, vulnerable, and potentially transformative. Little did I know that this moment of complete brokenness would become the precise landscape where genuine restoration could begin, where divine compassion would reconstruct what human weakness had demolished. My story wasn't ending. It was preparing to be rewritten. The silence of the fishing boat was suffocating. Nets lay tangled, a metaphor for my own fractured existence. Each gentle wave against the wooden hull seemed to whisper accusations, reminding me of my profound betrayal. I had returned to the only world I knew before Jesus, the familiar rhythms of fishing, hoping the repetitive motion might quiet the storm raging within my soul. Memories crashed against my consciousness like relentless tides. The smell of salt and fish no longer brought comfort, but served as a constant reminder of my spectacular failure. My hands, once steady on these nets, now trembled with an internal earthquake of shame. Professional skill meant nothing compared to the spiritual devastation I carried. Introspection revealed a landscape more treacherous than any stormy sea I'd navigated. My previous confidence felt like a fragile glass sculpture, beautifully crafted but utterly shattered by a single moment of weakness. The distance between my proclaimed devotion and actual courage seemed infinite, an unbridgeable chasm that mocked my entire spiritual journey. Professional fishermen understand patience, waiting for the right moment, reading subtle environmental signals. Yet spiritual patience demanded an entirely different caliber of endurance. I was learning that redemption wasn't a sudden transformation, but a meticulous process of reconstruction, much like mending a torn fishing net, strand by careful strand. The dawn's emerging light brought no immediate comfort. Shadows of my past actions lingered, casting long, dark silhouettes across my internal landscape. Each memory felt like a weight, pulling me deeper into an ocean of self-condemnation. Professional survival instincts that once guided me through treacherous waters now seemed powerless against this spiritual turbulence. Authenticity demands vulnerability. My previous persona, the bold, impulsive disciple, had been an elaborate facade. Stripped of pretense, I confronted a raw, unvarnished version of myself. The mirror of self-reflection showed not the heroic figure I'd imagined, but a deeply flawed human being desperate for genuine restoration. Healing, I was discovering, isn't a linear progression. It's a complex, non-linear journey filled with unexpected turns and profound insights. Like navigating unpredictable maritime currents, spiritual restoration requires adaptability, humility, and an unwavering commitment to moving forward, even when the path seems unclear. My professional skills as a fisherman suddenly felt insignificant compared to the intricate art of emotional and spiritual healing. Mending nets was straightforward. Mending a fractured spirit demanded an entirely different set of skills I was just beginning to comprehend. The horizon promised neither immediate resolution nor instant clarity. But within this uncertainty, a delicate hope began to take root. Fragile yet persistent, like a tiny seed pushing through rocky ground, seeking light and nourishment. As dawn broke over the Sea of Galilee, my hands trembled while mending the fishing nets. Each intricate knot represented more than mere craftsmanship. It symbolized the delicate process of spiritual restoration unfolding within my soul. The rhythmic motion of weaving broken threads together mirrored my internal journey of healing. Memories of betrayal still echoed like distant whispers, but something transformative was emerging. My previous understanding of redemption had been simplistic, a transactional exchange of forgiveness. Now I comprehended restoration as an intricate, multi-layered experience that reshapes one's entire spiritual landscape. Professional fishermen understand patience requires acute sensitivity to subtle environmental shifts. Similarly, spiritual renewal demands nuanced awareness of internal movements, microscopic changes in perspective, incremental healing of emotional wounds. My hands moved methodically, untangling complicated network of net fibers, just as my spirit was slowly unraveling layers of accumulated shame. Vulnerability, I discovered, isn't weakness but profound courage. Each moment of honest self-reflection represented another strand reconnected, another opportunity for genuine transformation. The nets I repaired became a metaphorical canvas illustrating spiritual reconstruction, methodical, intentional, requiring extraordinary precision. Psychological research suggests traumatic experiences fundamentally alter neural pathways. My spiritual transformation followed similar principles, rewiring internal narratives, challenging ingrained thought patterns, creating new neurological connections grounded in grace rather than condemnation. This wasn't merely emotional healing, but comprehensive psychological reconstruction. Seaside solitude provided unexpected sanctuary. Away from Jerusalem's judgmental whispers, I could breathe, reflect, process. The expansive horizon symbolized emerging possibilities, horizons broader than my previous limited understanding of divine mercy. Wind carrying salt memories also carried whispers of potential, of renewal. Restoration, I was learning, isn't instantaneous. It's a complex, nonlinear journey requiring patience, humility, and radical openness. Like maritime navigation through unpredictable currents, spiritual healing demands adaptability, continuous recalibration, willingness to chart unknown territories within oneself. Gradually, shame's suffocating grip loosened, not through forceful resistance, but through gentle, consistent engagement with my brokenness. Each net strand carefully rewoven represented another fragment of my spirit finding alignment, another step toward wholeness. The morning light illuminated something remarkable. Transformation wasn't about erasing past mistakes, but integrating them into a larger, more compassionate narrative. My failures weren't obstacles, but unexpected doorways into deeper understanding of grace, of human fragility, of divine restoration. As sunlight danced across gentle waves, I recognized my journey wasn't unique. Countless souls wrestle with similar internal landscapes, moments of profound disappointment, seasons of self-doubt. My restoration would become a testament, a beacon of hope for those navigating their own wilderness of wounded spirit. The morning breeze carried whispers of transformation across the shoreline, each wave seeming to pulse with unspoken potential. My hands, calloused from years of fishing and weathered by recent emotional storms, moved unconsciously, sorting through memories as meticulously as I sorted fishing nets. Psychological restoration isn't a linear trajectory, but an intricate dance of vulnerability and resilience. Every internal wound carries its own rhythm, its own healing cadence. Trauma doesn't simply vanish. It metabolizes, reshaping our spiritual musculature with unexpected grace. Unexpectedly, my deepest fractures became portals of understanding. Where shame once dominated, empathy now germinated. The landscape of personal failure, I discovered, isn't a barren wasteland but fertile ground for radical spiritual reimagining. Each moment of perceived weakness contained seeds of extraordinary strength, waiting for compassionate cultivation. Introspection revealed nuanced territories beyond simple guilt and redemption. Spiritual reconstruction demands radical honesty, not just acknowledging mistakes, but embracing them as integral chapters of a larger transformative narrative. My betrayal wasn't an endpoint, but a complex turning point, pregnant with unprecedented possibility. Neurological research suggests traumatic experiences fundamentally rewire internal pathways. Similarly, spiritual healing isn't about erasing memories, but recontextualizing them. We don't eliminate pain, we integrate it, transforming raw emotional energy into wisdom's intricate tapestry. Navigating interior landscapes requires extraordinary navigational skills. Emotional cartography isn't for the faint-hearted. Each internal terrain presents unique challenges, hidden emotional crevasses, psychological mountain ranges obscured by shame's dense fog. Authentic restoration demands courage to traverse these complex topographies. Incrementally, something remarkable emerged. My fractured identity wasn't something to hide or eliminate, but to understand, to dialogue with, to ultimately reconstruct. Healing became an active, dynamic process, less about achieving perfect resolution and more about embracing continuous, compassionate metamorphosis. The shoreline's rhythmic persistence mirrored my internal journey. Waves don't apologize for their constant movement. They simply continue, reshaping coastlines millimeter by millimeter. Likewise, spiritual renewal operates through gentle, persistent recalibration, not dramatic, instantaneous transformation. Crucially, this path requires surrendering performative notions of redemption. Authentic healing transcends external validation, emerging from internal alignment. We're not seeking to prove our worthiness, but to embrace our inherent, uncontingent dignity. My restoration wasn't about returning to a previous state, but advancing toward an unprecedented spiritual landscape. Each painful memory became a stepping stone, not an anchor. Gradually, shame's gravitational pull diminished, replaced by a luminous, expansive understanding of grace. As the morning sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the shoreline, I recognized a profound truth emerging from my brokenness. Restoration isn't a destination, but a continuous journey of rediscovery. My hands, once steady on fishing nets, now trembled with a different kind of tension, the tension of spiritual recalibration. Psychological transformation operates through unexpected channels. Trauma doesn't simply dissolve, it metabolizes, reshaping our internal landscape with remarkable precision. Each moment of perceived failure carried within it a seed of unprecedented potential, waiting for compassionate cultivation. The rhythm of waves against the shore became a metaphor for my internal reconstruction. Just as water continuously reshapes coastlines, imperceptible yet persistent, my spirit underwent a similar metamorphosis. Healing wasn't about erasing memories, but integrating them into a more expansive narrative of hope. Neuroscientific research suggests our brains possess extraordinary plasticity. Emotional wounds aren't permanent scars, but dynamic neural pathways capable of radical reconstruction. My experience of betrayal wasn't a terminal point, but a complex intersection of pain and possibility. Professional fishermen understand the delicate art of mending nets, each broken strand carefully woven back into a functional whole. Similarly, spiritual restoration demands meticulous attention, a willingness to engage with brokenness without judgment. Every fractured moment contains an invitation to deeper understanding. Psychological resilience emerges not from avoiding pain, but from developing sophisticated emotional navigation skills. Authentic healing requires courageously confronting our most vulnerable spaces, transforming internal landscapes millimeter by millimeter. My journey wasn't about achieving perfection, but embracing continuous growth. The morning breeze carried whispers of transformation, each gust challenging previous limitations. Spiritual reconstruction demands radical honesty, acknowledging wounds without being defined by them. We're not seeking to erase our history, but to recontextualize our experiences through a lens of compassionate understanding. Incrementally, something profound crystallized. My identity wasn't something to hide or eliminate, but to dialogue with, to understand, to ultimately reconstruct. Healing became an active, dynamic process, less about achieving resolution and more about embracing compassionate metamorphosis. Crucially, this path required surrendering performative notions of redemption. Authentic restoration transcends external validation, emerging from internal alignment. I was learning to embrace my inherent dignity, not through perfection, but through vulnerable, courageous engagement with my entire narrative. The shoreline's rhythmic persistence mirrored my internal journey. Waves don't apologize for their constant movement. They simply continue, reshaping coastlines with patient determination. My spiritual renewal operated similarly, through gentle, persistent recalibration, not dramatic, instantaneous transformation. Gradually, shame's gravitational pull diminished, replaced by a luminous understanding of grace. Each painful memory became a stepping stone, not an anchor, propelling me toward an unprecedented spiritual landscape of compassion, growth, and profound self-acceptance. In the quiet aftermath of my deepest failure, something unexpected began to emerge, a profound recognition that vulnerability isn't weakness, but the most courageous pathway to genuine transformation. My hands, once confidently gripping fishing nets, now trembled with a different kind of strength, the strength required to deconstruct everything I thought I knew about myself. Spiritual reconstruction isn't a linear journey, but an intricate dance of raw honesty and radical self-acceptance. Each moment of internal examination revealed layers of complexity I'd previously ignored. My betrayal wasn't simply a singular event, but a culmination of deeply embedded fears, unresolved insecurities, and unexamined limitations. Professional fishermen understand that mending requires precise, patient attention. Similarly, emotional healing demands meticulous engagement with our most vulnerable spaces. Healing isn't about achieving a pristine state, but about developing resilience through intentional, compassionate self-exploration. Neuroscientific insights suggest our neural pathways possess remarkable plasticity. Traumatic experiences don't merely create permanent scars. They generate opportunities for unprecedented neural reconfiguration. My internal landscape wasn't a fixed terrain, but a dynamic ecosystem capable of radical reinvention. Psychological resilience emerges when we stop treating our wounds as shameful secrets and start viewing them as powerful teachers. Each moment of perceived failure carries within it seeds of extraordinary potential, waiting for curious, courageous cultivation. My betrayal wasn't an endpoint, but a complex intersection of pain and unprecedented possibility. Incrementally, a transformative perspective crystallized. Identity isn't something static to be protected, but a living, breathing narrative to be continuously dialogued with and reimagined. Authentic restoration transcends external validation, emerging from internal alignment and profound self-compassion. Critically, this journey required surrendering performative notions of redemption. I wasn't seeking to erase my history or achieve some idealized version of myself. Instead, I was learning to embrace my entire narrative, shadows and light, failures and potential, with radical, uncompromising acceptance. My spiritual metamorphosis operated like intricate ecosystem restoration, not through dramatic intervention, but through patient, microscopic recalibration. Each internal shift, though seemingly imperceptible, contributed to a comprehensive regeneration of my spiritual and emotional terrain. As complex internal landscapes slowly transformed, I recognized an extraordinary truth. Our deepest wounds often become our most powerful portals of empathy, wisdom, and unprecedented growth. Healing isn't about returning to a previous state, but advancing toward an uncharted spiritual territory rich with unexplored potential. The path forward revealed itself not as a straight line, but as an intricate, non-linear exploration, demanding continuous curiosity, compassionate self-reflection, and an unwavering commitment to personal evolution. The weight of unresolved pain pressed against my consciousness like an invisible burden. My thoughts drifted to the countless individuals who carry similar invisible wounds, emotional scars that don't show on the surface but fundamentally reshape internal landscapes. Psychological research suggests trauma creates intricate neural pathways that persist long after the initial wound. I recognized how my betrayal had etched deep emotional grooves, creating automatic responses designed to protect me from further vulnerability. These internal defense mechanisms operated silently, intercepting potential connections before genuine healing could emerge. Navigating emotional recovery requires extraordinary self-awareness. We're rarely taught how to metabolize pain constructively. Most people default to suppression or explosive release, missing the nuanced territory of genuine emotional processing. My journey demanded learning an entirely new language of internal dialogue, one that honored my experiences without becoming permanently imprisoned by them. Transformation isn't about erasing historical pain, but integrating it meaningfully. Like a skilled cartographer mapping unexplored territories, I began charting my internal emotional landscape with increasing precision. Each remembered hurt became a coordinate, each triggered response a potential pathway toward deeper understanding. Radical acceptance emerged as my most powerful therapeutic tool. This wasn't passive resignation but active, compassionate engagement with my entire narrative. I stopped fighting against my memories and started listening to them with unprecedented curiosity. What were these internal experiences attempting to communicate? What wisdom resided beneath the surface-level turbulence? Neurological resilience operates through incremental recalibration. Our brain's plasticity allows continuous reconstruction, but this process requires intentional, patient navigation. I discovered healing isn't a destination but a continuous, dynamic conversation with oneself. Vulnerability became my most unexpected ally. By creating safe internal spaces for authentic self-reflection, I discovered reservoirs of strength previously hidden beneath protective layers of shame and disconnection. My perceived weaknesses transformed into portals of unprecedented personal growth. The path forward revealed itself not as a linear progression, but as an intricate, multidimensional exploration. Each internal shift, though seemingly microscopic, contributed to comprehensive emotional regeneration. My commitment wasn't to achieving perfection, but to maintaining courageous, compassionate engagement with my entire lived experience. Critically, this journey demanded surrendering performative notions of emotional recovery. I wasn't seeking to construct an idealized version of myself, but to embrace my authentic, complex humanity with radical, uncompromising tenderness. As internal landscapes slowly transformed, an extraordinary truth crystallized. Our deepest wounds often become powerful catalysts for unprecedented empathy, wisdom, and personal evolution. As I stand here, tracing the contours of my transformative journey, I recognize how profound spiritual metamorphosis transcends mere intellectual understanding. The terrain of human vulnerability isn't a battlefield to be conquered, but a delicate ecosystem waiting to be understood, nurtured, and ultimately reborn. The intricate dance between woundedness and restoration reveals itself not as a linear progression, but as a complex, multidimensional tapestry woven with threads of grace, resilience, and unexpected wisdom. Our most challenging experiences aren't obstacles blocking our path, but hidden gateways inviting deeper self-comprehension and spiritual awakening. Reflecting on this intricate odyssey, I've discovered that authentic healing emerges from a radical commitment to compassionate self-examination. We're not passive recipients of transformation, but active architects reconstructing our emotional and spiritual architectures, brick by vulnerable brick. The process demands extraordinary courage, a willingness to sit with discomfort, to listen to the subtle whispers of our wounded parts without judgment or immediate resolution. Our narratives aren't defined by our failures, but by our capacity to metabolize those experiences into reservoirs of empathy, insight, and unprecedented growth. Like alchemists of the soul, we possess an innate ability to transmute pain into profound understanding, turning our most challenging moments into generative sources of wisdom and connection. The boundaries between brokenness and healing become increasingly permeable as we develop sophistication in our emotional navigation. We learn that vulnerability isn't weakness, but the most courageous form of human expression, a luminous pathway illuminating previously unexplored territories of self-understanding. Our spiritual journey isn't about achieving a pristine, unblemished state, but about developing a nuanced relationship with our entire lived experience. We become cartographers of our inner worlds, mapping emotional terrains with increasing precision, curiosity, and tender acceptance. As the landscape of my understanding continues shifting, I recognize that true restoration isn't a destination, but a continuous, dynamic conversation. We're perpetually invited to expand our capacity for compassion, first toward ourselves, and subsequently extending that understanding to others navigating their own complex emotional landscapes. The threads of our individual stories interweave in ways we cannot immediately perceive. Our personal transformations ripple outward, creating unexpected connections, inspiring silent witnesses who recognize themselves in our journey of vulnerability and renewal. Standing at this precipice of understanding, I feel a profound sense of anticipation. The path ahead promises not certainty, but something far more valuable, an invitation to embrace our full, complicated, beautifully imperfect humanity with unprecedented grace and courage. In this moment of profound reflection, I understand that our human experience is far more intricate than a simple narrative of failure and redemption. We are not defined by our singular mistakes, but by our extraordinary capacity to transform pain into wisdom, vulnerability into strength, and isolation into connection. My journey has revealed that spiritual healing isn't a destination, but a continuous, breathtaking exploration of our innermost self. We are living, dynamic ecosystems constantly regenerating, capable of remarkable resilience even when we believe we are irreparably broken. The very wounds that once seemed like insurmountable barriers can become our most powerful portals of growth, empathy, and unexpected grace. What I've discovered transcends personal experience. It speaks to a universal human condition. We all carry invisible narratives of shame, fear, and disconnection. Yet within those shadowy territories lie unprecedented opportunities for radical self-acceptance and transformative understanding. Our most challenging moments aren't punishments, but invitations to develop deeper compassion, not just for ourselves, but for every soul navigating similar complex emotional terrains. The path of healing doesn't demand perfection, but requires courageous authenticity. We must learn to sit with our discomfort, to listen to the whispered stories of our wounded parts without immediate judgment or desperate attempts to resolve them. Our spiritual journey is about developing a nuanced, tender relationship with our entire lived experience, embracing both light and shadow as essential components of our humanity. As I stand here, witnessing the intricate tapestry of my own transformation, I recognize that our individual stories are never truly isolated. Each moment of vulnerability we courageously embrace creates ripples of inspiration, silently encouraging others to view their own challenges through a lens of compassionate possibility. We are interconnected in ways far more profound and mysterious than we comprehend. Our most significant revolution happens not through grand gestures, but through the quiet, persistent work of showing up for ourselves with unwavering kindness. We become alchemists of our own souls, transmuting pain into understanding, fear into curiosity, and fragmentation into wholeness. I invite you to see your journey not as a linear path of progression, but as a beautiful, complex dance of continuous becoming. Every wound carries within it seeds of extraordinary potential, waiting patiently to be nurtured with radical self-love and genuine curiosity.